Okay.
No, okay, it's recording now. Yeah, finally. Okay, so hi guys, hi Gapsters. Thank you all for joining to our new Elevate 2025 AI in Engineering Excellence. This is a new event that we'll have this year, and it's full of course, everything that we want to learn about AI and how to become better engineers as well, right? So today we have someone very important for that topic, who is Santiago Arango, with the talk how to use Azure to build LLMs with racks in a nutshell. Santiago is a cloud architect. He has a lot of different certifieds that include AWS, Azure Architect Certified, Azure and AWS AI Certified, Terraform Certified, AWS Azure Developer Certified, and so on. So as you can see, he's very knowledgeable in this topic. So without further ado, Santi, the stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Camilo, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here and welcome to the speech today. For those that maybe don't know me yet, my name is Santiago. I have been working in the company for 6 years and a half, very close to the 7 years. Throughout that time, I have been working mostly as a .NET developer and also moving throughout the stages as a solution architect too. I'm working on the cloud with Azure perspective especially. So with that in hand, what I would like to speak to you today, it will be how to include a couple of the most important services from Azure today in order to build intelligent apps. So we already know we are on this in these stages where we would like to introduce AI to all the places that we have in our product, in our solution, in our application internally, and many other places. So the topic today is we are going to explore the Azure AI Foundry, which actually was known previously in the past as the Azure AI Studio. We are going to do a quick dive into this service. We are going to be deploying an LLM into this Foundry. We are also going to see how to deploy and create an Azure Search Index in there. And we are going to see what is an index, how it works, what is the possibility to use it as a rack, which is another topic what we are going to be covering today. And then we are going to connect everything together, the LLM plus the Azure AI Index, in order to build a smart application to answer questions and provide feedback to the end user. So for that, we are going to be speaking about the Azure AI Foundry. We are going to speak what is a hub and a project in the Foundry as well. We are going to do a quick dive into the Azure Search. We are going to talk what is a data and an index into the Azure Search concept too, together with the Azure AI Foundry. We are going to do a very quick look into the Azure ML Studio when we kick up the creation of an index too. Then we are going to be deploying an LLM. We are going to do some playground with the Foundry, and after that, we are going to explore another option, which is actually the code floor, or actually using an agent to feed the information. One of the good things that you are going to be seeing today is actually you can do all of those things together very quickly. It will not take you more than an hour. It actually takes you an hour because one of the steps usually takes something between 15 to 30 minutes, depending of the size of the information. But if you skip that step, you can easily have everything set up in less than 20 minutes. But let's get going. So let's start with the first part, the Azure AI Foundry. So the Azure AI Foundry is this new tech stack that was known in the past as the Azure AI Studio. With the Azure AI Foundry, you have mostly everything together related to AI. So let's start with the more easiest part. You will have in there mostly any prefabricated or actually pre-existing models that you can use in an application for very specific topics. As an example, you have the computer vision, which is going to allow you to customize systems to detect things and images, classify images, detect specialized regions, detect multiple objects inside an image, and even more impressive, is going to allow you to explore that information throughout videos. So it actually can be real time as well. Another pretty good example is the speech and actually the synthetic voice generation. So you can translate real time speeches using the Foundry service, the service AI services, sorry. And also you can generate fake voices or synthetic voices as it is known today. Or you can use the document extraction services in order to extract valuable information from documents. And there are many other services, but that is like the smallest piece. The biggest player in here in the Azure AI Foundry is actually two things. the capability to connect to all of those services that I mentioned a moment ago, but also you will have the capability to explore the most extensive services that are available today. A pretty good example is that everything that you use in the Azure AI Foundry has two things. It can be easily deployed managing Azure only, and you can connect easily to, for example, to OpenAI. You don't have to go to the OpenAI and create a credentials in there and manage the billing in there. Actually, everything happens on the Azure side while you take advantage of everything that is located on the OpenAI side. Also, as part of the tooling, Azure offers a bunch of toolings like the Azure Search as a pretty good example, which is now known as the Azure AI Search, which empower applications to do some search. But we will take a look into that moment. So the AI Foundry is going to group all of those things together. Also, all the qualities that the cloud has to offer. Monitoring, you will be able to transport your application from development to staging to production environments pretty easily. Also, there is the capability to do a lot of collaboration. This is actually something nice from the AI Foundry. We have everything located in a web portal. And also you have the capability to use it as a developer to locally using .NET, using Java, or of course using Python, which is the start usually for these kind of things. But everything is fully centralized. So that means developers, QA, project management, anyone can collaborate to the project in different ways very easily. Also, you will have the cutting edge model for everything that is related to LLMs. You will have access to the latest version of GPT. You will have access to a huge set of models for Hugging Face as well, and many other providers. So it is important to mention that the AI Foundry have two flavors. The two flavors, it will be the hubs and the projects. And there is actually a couple of things to highlight in order to understand which one actually serves the purpose that you like to achieve. So when we speak about the project, this is actually the most simple setup that the Azure AI Foundry has to offer. In here, you can deploy Azure LLMs models pretty easily. You can customize data creations, and you can do mostly basic actions like deployment endpoints and many other basic activities. If you want to go into something more advanced and you would like to have more control and you would like to create more advanced scenarios like setting up agents, NCP servers, and many other things like that, connecting your service to Azure functions, to Blob Storage, and file shares, and many other services in Azure, the best option for you, it will be the hub-based project. Something very interesting is that you can have a Foundry project, which is this small piece, isolated, or you could have a hub project with many projects. So this is the good thing of the hub. You can have multiple projects. Each project can be used for a particular topic or a scenario, and all of those things can share the same resources. All of them can share the same storage account. All of them could connect to the same event stream, event hubs. All of them could connect to Cosmos DB. All of them could share the same open AI connection or have many others. That is up to you according to the design that you would like to choose. So here is like a quick comparison of what you have in both into the Foundry project and to the hub-based project. The first thing to mention is that for the agents design, so for the Foundry, we have for the Foundry project, what is generally available, which is say as GA on screen. And for the hub-based project, it's actually on preview. When you are working with models, everything is supported via native side and actually via available connection. This is something pretty good the hub has to offer because you will have the capability to connect pretty easily to OpenAI services. And more importantly, you can expose those endpoints through Azure using the same protocol as OpenAI. So a pretty good example, any application on any source code in Python, .NET, or anything similar that supports OpenAI via NuGet package, via pip library, or something similar is going to have the capability to connect to the Azure endpoint without any changes to the code. From here, you will have a couple of things. You will have the playground, you will have the prompt load, you will be able to manage the compute for your instances as well. And mostly you will be able to manage all the dependencies throughout your services. It is important to mention the two things that I spoke of because one of the others have support on some things and the other doesn't have it. In this case, for the scenario today, we are going to be using a hub because the hub actually is fully available to connect to the Azure Search. So let's speak about Azure Search now. The Azure Search service actually provides two things. The capability in an Azure Search service actually getting that content that is valuable for you into the system. The Azure Search is actually going to provide the tooling in order to process your information and give like a meaningful value. So as an example, you have PDF documents, you have Word documents, you have PowerPoint documents, you have Excel documents, you have images or anything like that. The Azure Share is going to give you all the capabilities to make that information very useful. As a good example, let's suppose that you have a bunch of images that are actually very valuable for your business. With the Azure Search, you will have the capability to create something that is a pipeline, or also known as a skill sets. And those skill sets will have the capability, for example, to get into an image, use another service like OpenAI or the Azure Machine Learning Studio to, for example, take a description of the image using AI, or maybe trying to localize objects into the image and getting the text out of that image, just to make that information searchable. So if you send an image that maybe contain a couple of, let's say, cats, or maybe a couple of dogs, if eventually you go, I would like to see any dogs or cats, that image is going to be searchable with a text context. Just to give you a quick example. One of the good things that we are going to explain also in a moment after this is going to be the capability to do vectorization. This is, let's say, the top-notch implementation that we can use today in order to make the data searchable. We will deep dive into that in a moment. When you have your data index, you will be able to query that data. So that means any human could use any type of human readable search capabilities in order to query your data. So you will be able not only to use like a very basic, let's say, SQL or command prompts to look information, but actually you will be able to use human capabilities to look up for your information. As an example, if you feed, let's say, a couple of kitchen books to the Azure Search, and you would like to look for a recipe that contains chicken and rice, a human can go into the search tab and say, okay, I would like to have a recipe that contains rice and chicken, and feel free to add any of the other ingredients. The Azure Share will have the capability to take that information, go into the index, and look up to the information that match closely the request of the user. One of the good things is that we have full control into that. So what information we would like to query, how we would like to index that information as well. And we can use a set of search capabilities according to the needs that we have. We can use semantic search, we can use a vectorization search, we can use an hybrid type, which is actually a mix between semantic search and also a vectorization search. That is according to the base business needs and the capabilities of compute that we have available. One of the good things is that Azure Search, as it is right now, is actually capable to do vectorization search, which makes things pretty easily. But I want us to take a quick look in here into something, how to use the Azure Search in a, let's say, more graphical manner. So when you work with the Azure Search, this is what is going to happen. You are going to have your information located maybe in a Azure storage account. And this storage account could contain things like PDFs, maybe Excel documents, and many others. What is going to happen is that in here we are going to have the Azure Search. And the Azure Search is going to have the capability to access the storage account. In here we will have, in the Azure Search, we will define something that is the skill sets. And the skill set is going to define how we would like to process that data. So as an example, let's work with a PDF document. And let's suppose that we have a document that has like 300 pages. So the skill set is going to have the capability to go and define how to process this PDF. So what it's actually going to do, the Azure Search is going to go into this PDF and do a text extraction. So whatever text content is located into the PDF, it will be extracted automatically by the Azure Search. But as part of the skill sets too, you can set the PDF also to an image extraction. So if the PDF contains any images, it's going to process that as well. And as part of the output for your images, you can send it to maybe to the AI cognitive services for images, as a quick example. And this one can extract a description for your images too. And this is like a few quick examples. As soon as the skill sets finish all these processes, it is going to be sent into the index. And eventually the user will be able to use the index to look up information based on that. One of the good things also from the Azure Search is the capability to connect information one into the other. Let me explain. If you have a PDF with 300 pages that we mentioned before. This is actually pretty big to do a like unique search. So what the Azure share is actually going to do internally is actually going to split this document into smaller ones. So each block could be, I don't know, maybe 20 pages, 30 pages, 50 pages that is actually configurable in the more advanced scenarios. But one of the good things is that when the user makes a request to the Azure search, let's suppose that the initial search go into this document and actually hits something that the user actually is interested with. The good thing is that the algorithms and the capability the Azure search has is going to have the capability to go into the previous document and to the next one and see how it actually is related. Let's suppose the two documents on top and the bottom to the one in the middle actually contain contextual information is going to move into the next document. So that way it's going to find all the meaningful information throughout the documents and eventually return these several responses to the end user. This is like the technical perspective into it, but everything happens into the background and you don't have to code anything. We will see that in a moment. So going back into the slides and having like a more clear comprehension of of Azure Search, we can move into this part. So we will have the capability to vectorize, like I explained a moment ago. We'll be able to chunk the data and extract that information. You will be able to do full search, and also one of the good things is that as many other Azure resources, you will have the capability to have granular control. So you will be able to define who and when will be able to access the data. And that will not only apply for the external user, but also for the users that work in your application. So maybe you would like to give access to the developers to the dev index, but not to the production one. Maybe you would like to have the QAs to have access into some particular set of indexes instead of production, maybe to the managers access to production ones, and things like that. Also, you will be able to control with the granular too which person in the external part of the consumption of the application actually has the capability to read this data. So now going back into something that I wanted to explain a couple of times already, it will be the OpenAI embeddings. And why actually this is pretty important. The OpenAI embeddings, and actually the embeddings is a topic that could be discussed outside of the OpenAI umbrella, is that when you have a text, you will have the capability to transfer that text into numeric values. Maybe you already know this, but for a computer, for a CPU, or for an algorithm, actually text is not that meaningful or easy to process. So every time that we would like to work with text into a machine learning algorithm, maybe into a neural network, and in this case also into the Azure search, the best opportunity to process our information is actually to use embeddings. So maybe you go back into your times into college or maybe into high school, you will remember that we could graph 2 points into the space, into the x and y dimensions. And even some cases, the most common example, it will be the x, y, and z spaces, which actually are 3 dimensions. With the embeddings, actually, you end up with a huge multidimensional object, which is actually known as a tensor too. And each one of these connections is going to contain a particular set of words. So if we go into the next slide, this is something that you can try to transfer from the OpenAI embeddings. So this is a multiplane where all the data is located. And this is the nice things about actually using embeddings. In numbers, but also when the user makes a request, we do exactly the same thing. The good thing is from there, we use mathematics, internal mathematics and calculus in order to approximate the text that is actually closer to the request of the user. So this is why it's pretty important, because this is actually pretty fast to compute. It's going to provide the proper answers, and it is actually a mathematical strategy where statistics is going to return a more strategic and actually best place information. So now we have covered the most basic things. So let's start talking a little bit about the demo. So for today, I'm going to show you how to create an Azure AI Foundry. We are going to also to create the project, or show you how to create a project as well. We are going to set up an Azure search. So we are going to take a look how to set up the data, how to set up the index as well. We are going to be deploying as part of that too, the OpenAI embeddings model to transfer all of our data. And we are going to deploy an LLM after that. As soon as we have everything ready, we are going to go into the playground and we are going to play with that data. At the end, we are going to be exploring also the agent option just to do a quick dive and show you how you can use these type of things in more advanced scenarios. So for today's demo, we are going to feed a couple of documents that are related to AWS to the LLM. Sorry, to the Azure Search. So this document from AWS actually contains several best practices and knowledge about which technology to choose. So as an example, we have documents for serverless, we have documents for choosing a container instance in some particular cases, or Fargate in this case, in which cases to use AKS, and many others. So let's go into the Azure portal. Let's explore the first thing, the Azure AI Foundry, and what actually the resources that are required to go. So once you are on the Azure portal, you will have the capability to look up in here for the Azure AI Foundry. So you can use the search bar on top, or you can just click the icon in here if you already have been playing with it. In here, you will be presented with a couple of things. The first thing that I want to show, it will be the capability of the services that I mentioned previously. You have capability for computer vision, custom vision, content safety, document intelligence, face API, health insights, and many others. This is part of the AI services that Azure originally offered like a separate package before, but now it's actually part of the AI Foundry too. But on top, we have the AI Foundry, we have the hubs, and also the Azure OpenAI. You want to work with that. Also, you will have the capability to explore the Azure AI Search service, which is actually something isolated that you can work on too. So if we go into the hubs, let's explore a couple of things. When you want to create a hub, you will be presented with two options: to create a project or to create a hub. If you are in this particular tab on screen, you will have the capability to create a project, but you will have to attach it to a hub. So if you haven't created a hub, you will have to choose the second option. So now to create the hub, I'm going to zoom this a little bit, maybe it looks better. So you will be prompted to instruct some of the most basic information. You will be asked to give a resource group. You will be asked to deploy the region that would like to have your Azure AI hub. And in here, I actually tell you that you have to be careful which region actually you choose from. It is actually not related because it's going to be more expensive or another place. It is actually because you have to choose the region properly according to your needs. As an example, if you're choosing here North America Central, you will not have the capability to work with agents. So keep that in mind. So you can refer to the Azure documentation to make sure that you choose the region that actually has available the resources that you need to choose from. The best options that we have today will be East US or East US 2 in order to deploy your resources. Mostly everything is available into those two regions. Besides that, in here, you will be requested to provide a resource group. Who would you like to store your information? Provide a name for your hub. Also, you will be prompted to create an OpenAI. This is actually very important because this OpenAI service is actually the part of the internal service that actually going to consume everything related to OpenAI. So this is going to create a resource for you too. And remember, everything is handled by Azure itself. You don't have to go to the OpenAI portal and work with the models in there and pay your billing in there. Everything happens in here, isolated in the Azure portal. From here, you will need a couple of things that are mostly basic into the configuration. The first thing is you need to provide a storage account in order to store your information. This storage account, it could be used, and actually is going to be used for multiple purposes. The first thing is that the hubs and the projects actually are going to create a couple of containers into the blob storage. Also, they are going to create a couple of file shares as part of the solution too. But of course, you can also use the same storage account to store custom documents or anything that you would like to store that is actually part of the solution. Do not mix your storage account with other businesses. Also, you will need a keyboard. This is actually pretty straightforward. The keyboard is going to be used to encrypt any security credentials that are in your application too, though this is a requirement. You will have two options in here that actually are fully optional, which actually is enable the application insights and also the container registry. The application insights is going to give you the capability to track down everything that happened into the hubs, from the operation on the hub itself and the project itself, or also the consumption the end user is actually doing. And the container registry is going to give us the capability to package our application as container and deploy those into the Azure Container Apps, Azure Container Instances, and Kubernetes too. Those two are optional in case you want to take that approach. For the other part, we have usually networking, outbound and inbound, how you would like to restrict those kind of things. Remember, if you are working in a production environment, you might want to disable the public access and keep everything private internally. Use it private endpoints maybe, or maybe just safe connection between your network and the cloud network too, or keep your service internally only. Same for the outbound access. For the encryption, this is very straightforward as well. This is for encryption of the data, encryption on the hubs, encryption on the Azure storage account, encryption on the file shares, and many others. Identity will be to manage the authentication throughout the application and how these different Azure components connect one into each other. From here, it will be the creation. I'm going to skip the creation because I already have a hub created, but this is like to show you how to do that. Once you have the demo, sorry, once you have the hub created, you can go into the hub directly, and you will have the project staff in here. In here, you will have the capability to create a project as part of the hub. You will be prompted to only to choose the resource group. You will be asked to give a name to your project as well, to choose which hub is going to be attached with, and also to configure exactly the same thing for the identity. In here is actually pretty important if you are using role-based access control for all your application, which is the best practice is actually that you should do. The project have a unique managed identity, and the hub has a managed identity too. But the good thing is any permission that the hub has, the project will be able to inherit those. But remember to keep it wise. If all of the projects in the hub do not require access to one particular resource, it will be better to give access only to that particular component. I'm going to skip the creation of the project as well. I already have that created too. So I'm going to go back into the Azure portal before going into the Foundry directly, just to show you something here. So for the creation of the Azure shares, we are going to be using a couple of documents that I mentioned from the AWS official documentation. So as part of the hub that I already created, I have this storage account. So in this storage account, application. As an example, the ones that you see with a quick name are the ones that the Azure Machine Learning uses to store the jobs and the information and metadata for several parts of the application. And the other two, for insights, are actually, as the name said, is actually to save logs and metrics for the hub and the project too. In this case, I created this custom folder, which is the data source. Inside the data source container, I created another directory, which is the AWS eBooks. So I want you to take a look into this document. So we have a set of 7 PDFs, which are from different topics. One of these is about Bedrock of SageMaker. Another one is from containers. Another one from database. Another one from Fargate or Lambda. Another one will be how to create generative AI with the best practices. And 2 from the well-architected framework. So these are going to be the 7 files that we are going to be using for today's demo. So now I'm going to go back into the Foundry again. So the first time that you go into the Foundry, this is the screen that you are going to be presented with. In here, you will have some string connection capabilities. You will have some quick overview of the URL that you can use to connect from your services using keys too, or Azure Active Directory key, in case you want to do that, best practice. But if you take a look into the left panel, you will have the capability to explore models, use the playground, explore the Azure AI services, which is some in the Foundry too. You will have the capability to deploy agents, use templates to deploy, let's say, applications that already have been handcrafted for you, and you can use those as a startup application. You will have the capability to fine-tune models as well. So that means takes an existing LLM, feed it custom information like private information from your business, private information for your source code, and actually make that LLM expert onto that. The content understanding is another option that we have in here, which is actually going to take document. This is still in part of preview, but it can take document and extract valuable information from those documents, like invoices, like legal documents. You can extract medical information as well. And pretty soon it's going to have the capability to allow you to create custom detections. So you will be able to extract custom information from custom documents. The prompt flow is actually something pretty nice as well, because you will have the capability to build custom flows on how to connect your data. As an example, you can take the user input, you can pre-process that input, maybe augment that request using another LLM, pass that information maybe to the Azure search, from the Azure search maybe send it to another service, and at the end go to an LLM and ask questions based on that, all that data augmentation. In here, you will have the capability to trace and monitor too, so you will be able to track down everything that happens in your environment in perspective in security, requests, who made what, and you will be able to track all of those things. As part of the protect and govern, you will have the capability to evaluate your model. So that will be how well your model is actually performing according to your business need, or actually based on your expected outputs. Also, you will be able to set up guardrails and also controls, so that you will be able to control which imports are going to the LLM. Actually, if filter is actually safe content, or is maybe content that you will not like to answer for, you will be able to customize all of those things. The risk and alerts are related to the models as well, like how your model is behaving, also related to cost management too, maybe over usage, compute over usage, cost management, and many things like that. And the governance, which is actually in preview, is actually going to allow you also to monitor and govern how your model is actually behaving, and the consumer and the information that is actually taken. So this is a quick overview of the different services. From here, we have the model plus endpoints, data indexes, and web apps. So let's take a look into the first piece. It's going to be the data. So I'm going to show you in here how to set up a new data, how to use it in here in the Azure AI Foundry. So in this demo, we are using the data from the storage account, but you can choose from multiple sources. So let me show you. So in here, the first thing that you will be prompted to, it will be to choose a connection that you would like to use. As it is today, you can connect from the Azure Blob Storage, you can connect to the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, and also Microsoft OneLake. Any of those three services can provide the output information that you would like to take in your application. So that will provide access to document, mining data, and even access to Cosmos DB if it is actually something that you would like to connect with OneLake. So if we go with Data Lake Storage Gen 2, we'll be prompted to choose the subscription that we would like to use for this demo, and also the storage account that we would like to use. So if we're navigating here, we will have the data source folder, as you can see, which is the previous one. And in here, you can use the Microsoft Entra ID base or the credential base. So I'm going to be using for today's demo the Microsoft Entra one, just to make sure everything doesn't depend from keys. Now, everything that you need to do, it will be to give a name to your connection. I already created the connection as well, so I'm going to choose the connection from here, from the existing ones. The good thing is that if the connection has been successful between the AI Foundry and the result that you choose from, you will be prompted to take a look into the preview into the output information. In this here, we have the AWS ebooks that we already created. In here, all that we need to do is to give a name to the data, and that should be everything. Doing that, we will have access to the data directly in here from the from the AI Foundry. So this is the output that you are going to see. As you can see on the right panel in here, you will have the different files also available in here. You can navigate those, take a look into those. You can download any of this information, and more importantly, you will have a quick display of the information that is located in this data source. So this is the first step to create an Azure Search Index, having the data. Now that we have our data, we can move into the next step, which is actually creating the index. So the creation of the index is actually pretty simple. The first thing that we need to do is to give the data source. So the data source, of course, is going to be information that is located into the AI Foundry. But as you can see, one of the good things is that you can connect directly to maybe even existing indexes, because you can create an index based on an existing one. You can connect to external services like MongoDB Atlas, because if you maybe know this type of services, MongoDB has a huge and a very strong capability to provide vectorized information sales data. So this is a unique standard from the industry right now. So you can connect to that too. Now you can create a new index using information that we have in the AI Foundry. You can connect directly to the Azure Blob Storage too. Or if your information is located in a public folder or a folder that can be accessed maybe with a security key or anything like that, you can use his storage URL. And the final option, it will be to upload directly the information during the creation in here. But if you upload the file directly in here, what is going to happen is going to create the data exactly as we saw previously, but with a, let's say, a more random name. In this case, we are going to choose the data in Azure AI Foundry. And as you can see, we'll have already the two parts in here. So we are going to choose the AWS ebooks that we already created in here. And here is where it comes the important part. The next step that we are going to be asking here is to choose an Azure Shared Service. So if I go back into the Azure portal, I'm going to navigate into the Azure Shared Service. So you can go directly into the AI Foundry and you can locate the AI search in here. From here, you can choose to create the resource, or maybe if you already have an Azure search that is already existing, you can use that one too. That is up to you and according to the business needs. For the same thing, I'm going to show you a quick overview of the creation. So this is actually pretty simple. All you need to do is to choose a resource name, give a name to the service, select where your service is going to be located to. And the most important piece, it will be to choose the proper scale based on your business. The Azure service is actually a very elastic service, which allows you to grow up your application pretty easily. So in here, you can choose how much replicas you would like to have and which type of partitions you would like to have. As you can see, this is part of the standard tier, which is actually something close to $250 per month. But of course, the more replicas you choose to have and the more partitions you would like to have, so this is the amount of storage you would like to have, the more expensive it's going to get. So let's say the biggest one we can see right now is almost $10,000, but that will be for a huge business. And in here we have connectivity, same thing for the configuration networking too. I already created one too. So one of the good things is that we take a look. This is a very standard software in here. Service in here. You will be presented with a couple of things: a skill set, indexes, indexer, data sources, and many other things. Here is important to mention is you can create also an index and also import information here directly in the Azure search if you don't want to use the Azure AI Foundry as an intermediary. That's actually a good option too, and actually provide a more complete set of steps. But let me show you on the Azure AI Foundry what we can do, and then we can come back in here and I can give you some more detailed examples of the things that you can do in here that are more fine-grained than the Azure AI Foundry. So now that we are in here, we can choose the Azure Shared Service in here. In case this is the first time that you are connecting the Azure AI Foundry, you can choose to connect the service. You will be presented with the different Azure services that you have available in here, and you can choose to add the connection. The same thing, you will have the capability to connect using the API, also Microsoft Entra ID to choose the RBAC. In the connection that I'm using in here right now for the new index is going to be using RBAC too. So I choose my service in here, and I need to give also a name to for my index. One of the good things in here is that I have the capability to choose between different flavors on compute. I can allow the Azure search to select the best hardware to train my index, so that is going to choose a serverless VM. And based on the input information my storage has, and it's actually something pretty big. Eventually, it's going to choose a VM that actually have GPUs, a big amount of memory, and actually a big amount of CPU. If you don't feel that trustworthy and actually you want to manage all the things by yourself, you can create a custom VM in here as well, set up which type of compute you would like to use, and that is going to be more easy to control in case you want to maybe control your expenses and be more careful into that. So that is up to you. Now we move into the search part. this is where we are presented with something very important. For the first part, we have the OpenAI connection. So the same thing. If you remember when we created the hub and we were following the steps, we were prompted to create an OpenAI service. When we do that, that gets created too automatically. So in here you will be displayed with the Azure AI service that you already have for OpenAI in here. And one of the things that you are going to be asked with is going to be to deploy an embedded model from OpenAI. In this case, I already have the deployment ready, but if this is the first time navigating in here, you can just click next, and the Azure portal, the Azure AI Foundry is going to take care of that deployment for you. It is going to create the embedded model for you. So remember, the embedded is actually very important just to make sure that the input text that we take is actually going to be vectorized and be searchable pretty easily. Now we click next. Now in here, I will be able to create the index, but the main reason which I skipped the creation of the hub and the project and the Azure share here directly live is because the creation of the index it actually takes a little bit of time. As an example, with the 7 documents, which I have to say the documents were pretty big, through 200, 300, 500 pages, some of them, it took something closer to 25 minutes. And of course, I didn't want you to wait for 25 minutes. But now if I go back into the Azure Search, I want to mention a couple of things that are worth to mention. The Azure Search is going to give you a couple of capabilities. If you saw the creation that we did in the Azure AI Foundry, is actually very straightforward and actually pre-made in order to extract easily information from PDF, text files, and Word documents and things like that. But if you want to work in more advanced scenarios like pre-processing CSV files, maybe extracting information from images, or even creating like custom jobs to do some particular actions, you will have to go here into the Azure Search service and create the skill sets, this is the pipeline that I mentioned I was drawing earlier. And this pipeline is going to allow you to connect those steps. So for each one input document, you can extract the text, you can extract the images, and many other things. So that is up to you. So the Azure Shares directly is going to provide more advanced skills for you. So if you feel that need, instead of working directly on the AI Foundry, come back in here and create the Azure Shares, and you can import that index into the AI Foundry for later usage. If I click in indexing here, you will see the index that I created on the Azure AI Foundry is also available in here. So I wanted to show you in here that we can actually explore very easily what we have in this index too. The first thing that I wanted to show you is that the Azure AI Foundry extracted for me the content, also created an URL. We are going to see why we have a URL in here. Also the file path, the title of the document, and also the metadata JSON string. This part is actually very important because this is related to the vector that is created for part of the search. But let's see. Let me show you in here, just as a part of the Azure AI set, I'm going to ask him anything for Lambda. Now I'm asking to search. So Azure Search internally uses the OData protocol in order to do the search and query the information that you are looking for. So as you can see in here, he actually returned to me, which is the text, which are the parts of the text block that are actually related to the topic that I asked to. So as you can see, there are several places in here mentioning Lambda, which is one of the serverless functions for AWS, and actually the confidence score of that word being on that document. We also have these kind of things. But if I scroll into the bottom, the most important thing that I would like to show you is that we have several responses and several pages in here into the ranking score. One of the good things is that all of these answers provide also an access to the document itself, so that will be the file path. So we will see in a moment why it's actually so important to have those kind of things. So now let's go back in here into the AI Foundry and play a little bit with this indexing here. So for that, let's use the playground. This is actually a very nice place where you as a developer or even as a non-technical person, you can start exploring your tools. Now I will go back a little bit in here because you will have the capability to deploy models pretty easily. So I'm going to deploy a model, and a model is everything related to an LLM. You can deploy models from ChatGPT, you can deploy models from Hugging Face, and there are actually many providers, as you can see here. And all of those models are actually usable from the beginning with just one click. Let me show you. Let's deploy the O4 Mini as an example. Just confirm that. It is going to give me an overview, where it's actually going to be deployed, the configuration that is going to have, the region which is actually going to be located, and I'm going to deploy it. If you have like a stopwatch, you will notice no more than maybe 20 seconds just happen, and your API is ready to go. One of the good things in here is that you will be given with code examples on how to interact with the code directly with Python, using also C#, JavaScript, REST interface too, and Java. That you need to. But also you can go into the playground and open this model. So let's do that. The playground is going to be displayed in the Azure AI Foundry, where you will be able to interact with that model, and you will be able to execute a bunch of tasks. So let's wait a couple of seconds. So this is like any standard LLM that you already interact with Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, and many others. So what is AWS in 10 words? This is going to answer our question just based on the generic data that has been trained to from the internet as any other LLM. So it is already giving us an output in here. Something not too complicated. But of course, this is actually pretty simple. So the thing that we would like to take advantage with, it will be the data that we would like to explore. So let's go back into the chat playground again. Let's choose a new deployment in here. In this case, we are going to be deploying the GPT-4.1. Then again, we are going to be presented with a deploy screening here. Go back into the playground again, just to make sure the model is in there. Good. One of the things that we can do with GPT-4.1 is that in here we can connect the LLM with our data. So you take a look in here. This is actually feeding from the Amazon ebooks that I already trained the index to. So I can choose from the type of search I would like to do, which actually is going to be by keyword or semantic. In this case, I am more interested to use a semantic search. So I'm going to use a custom prompt. So I'm going to ask him in here, you are a solutions architect for AWS and provide guidance for the clients. This is actually pretty nice because this simple prompt is going to be transformed for me into a more meaningful one. So just give it a couple of seconds until it do that. In the meantime, I'm going to type the using serverless technologies and preferably using a non-structured database. Okay, so we take a look into the prompt that has been generated. Give me like a very special output. You are an AWS architect, providing expert guidance. It's actually given a couple of steps, which is actually what is actually going to do the LLM as part of the system. So also make sure you follow the best practices. So this is an agnostic question because, as you can see, I didn't ask anything about AWS. I didn't say anything about Lambda. I didn't say anything about Fargate or anything like that. So in here, one of the good things is that we are being provided already with a proper output. In a second, is providing still the output here. It's actually providing the output. Is actually okay, telling me for the database you can use DynamoDB, which actually match what I asked to. Lambda functions also provide what I need to do. If we want to provide security, you can use the API gateway. You can use Amazon S3 for storage. You can use CloudWatch for metrics. So it's actually providing a good set amount of responses. But in this case, it's because I fed best practices document from AWS. But one of the good things in here is that if you scroll using the documents that we created. As an example, he used the well-architected framework documents that I have in here in order to produce the responses, which is actually pretty good because we give them a more advanced guidance more than beyond any basic configurations. And to close up, I wanted to show you an agent in here, which is actually another opportunity which you can explore in here. And an agent is actually an implementation for something exactly as we will show, an LLM connected to different types of data sources. But the good thing is the agents can be very specialized into particular actions. And also, when creating agents, you can easily use protocols like MCP in order to connect those agents and create different tasks between one each other and make the communication very flawlessly. This is becoming like a standard into the community today. So we have already here the Ocean OpenAI agent. So let's set up a deployment for this one. In this case, we are going to be use GPT-4o for this agent deployment. Remember that data, and in this case, the GPT-4o is actually pretty specialized in order to create agents. So let's say you are a solutions architect for AWS. And then again, we can use the knowledge base, in this case, to connect to our data. In this case, as you can see, you can connect knowledge base from Azure Search, Fabric, and many other technologies. In this case, since we use the Azure Search, I'm going to choose the existing connection. I'm going to then again choose a semantic search for this one. Okay, already set up. So let's ask it to train in the playground these agents. So I'm going to ask him, okay, provide some guidance to choose between Fargate or Blender. So this is giving me in here a quick summary of the technology, which actually give me the scenarios, which is actually the limitations to the advantages and some of the most common things. A second. Okay, so it produced the output, and one of the good things then again is to use the search base that I already set up in here in order to produce this output. So in here we can see we got the output, he executed the thread, and he went throughout the request throughout the Azure search in order to extract that information. Okay, that's everything. Camilo, there are any questions open in the chat by now?
No, not by the time, but if you have any questions, guys, you can raise your hands or leave it in the chat, and I'll make sure to refer them to Santi. Okay, Alejandro Lozano has raised his hand. So yes, go ahead.
Hey, Santi, do you know if there's a way to make a relational databases as the data source for creating the indexes?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good question. And one of the good things that you can do with Azure Search directly is that you can connect the Azure Search to Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Cosmos DB, and even external services like MongoDB and many others. So yes, there are actually ways to connect to external data feeds.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Guys, does anyone else have any questions, comments, anything that you'd like to share before we close this talk? Right, there are a few applauses, Santi. I'm pretty sure you're seeing them too. So okay, there's another questions, but okay, maybe it was a mistake. Victor, were you going to ask anything, or maybe it was? So guys, maybe okay. So maybe if you'd like to leave a comment, not here, but in our feedback form, I'm going to be leaving it in the chat. So please make sure to go ahead and leave any of your thoughts in this talk that we just had with Santi. and see you tomorrow in our next talks for this Elevate 2025 event. Tomorrow we're going to be having an external speaker, so it's going to be very exciting as well. And I hope to see you there. I don't know, Santi, if there's anything else you'd like to point out before we leave. Okay. I don't know if you. Okay, guys. So I'm pretty sure this is it. Thank you again. Thank you to Santi, as always, to always being so willing to share his knowledge with all of us. And thank you to all for joining. And see you tomorrow. And see you in the rest of the Elevate 2025 festival. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.